history with LeBron James directly or indirectly influencing team moves and using media, podcasts, and other forms of media to do it. That's a fact.
Rich Paul has gotten delusional. As LeBron James's career is coming to an end, and LeBron James has clearly lost power and leverage in the NBA and with the Lakers, Rich Paul actually thinks his agency and his brand and his relationship with Adele and all that, Rich Paul is feeling himself.
If I was the Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a trade partner for Jaren Jackson.
I know Rich Paul well enough to know that Rich Paul speaks for himself. But I also know how attached he is to LeBron and how he will speak for LeBron all day, every day. Won't say, he'll tell LeBron if he's wrong now. He'll tell LeBron if he's wrong. He'll speak privately, but he's always going to ride with LeBron.
The NBA just witnessed one of the most awkward damage control moments of the season, and it involves the king himself. Rich Paul, LeBron James's longtime agent and best friend, dropped a bombshell on his podcast that sent shockwaves through Lakers Nation. He suggested trading Austin Reaves, the beloved purple and gold underdog who's currently averaging 26 points per game, for Memphis Grizzlies defensive anchor Jaren Jackson Jr. The reaction? Immediate chaos. The fallout? LeBron scrambling to distance himself from his own agent's words. But here's where it gets spicy. Nobody's buying what LeBron is selling, and Stephen A. Smith just torched both of them on national television. Let's break down why this situation is way messier than anyone wants to admit.
If I was the Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a trade partner
For?
Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, that'd be a great fit.
I would.
For whom?
Well, that's the thing, because you got to figure out the package. This comes with
Austin Reaves.
This comes with a very unemotional attachment because Austin is beloved, which he should be.
But he's about to get paid.
He's an underdog.
Rich Paul went on his podcast and basically said the quiet part out loud. Trade Austin Reaves, get Jaren Jackson Jr., balance the roster. It makes basketball sense on paper, sure. A former Defensive Player of the Year joining a Lakers squad that desperately needs rim protection and defensive intensity, yeah, that could work. But here's the problem. You don't just throw your client's teammate under the bus on a public podcast when that client is LeBron James. You don't casually suggest trading away a fan favorite, a guy who's balling out, a player who's become the heart and soul of this Lakers roster. Not unless there's something bigger going on behind the scenes. LeBron tried to clean it up real quick. After the Lakers' latest win, he told ESPN reporters he had nothing to do with Rich's comments. He went full denial mode.
All know by now Rich is his own man, and what Rich says is not a direct reflection of me and how I feel. And I hope people know that. I hope people know that if they're not sensible to know that, then I don't know what to tell them.
LeBron even doubled down, insisting he never discusses podcast topics with Rich Paul, that Austin Reaves knows exactly how he feels, that anyone thinking these words came from LeBron is just being unreasonable. Sounds convincing, right? Wrong. Stephen A. Smith wasn't having it, not for a second. The ESPN analyst went scorched earth, calling out the obvious elephant in the room that everyone's thinking but nobody wants to say out loud. Rich Paul and LeBron James are attached at the hip. They've been partners for over 2 decades. You can't just separate their voices like they're two random people who occasionally grab lunch together. Stephen A. laid it out perfectly. Rich Paul isn't some rookie agent fresh off the boat. This man has been wheeling and dealing in NBA circles for years. He's influenced trades, orchestrated roster moves, and built an empire on the back of his relationship with LeBron. You think he doesn't know what happens when he opens his mouth about Lakers personnel decisions? Come on. The reality check Stephen A. delivered was brutal but necessary. When you're LeBron James's agent, when you're his childhood friend, when you're the guy who's been there through every championship run and every team change, your words carry LeBron's weight whether you like it or not. Fair or unfair, that's the reality Rich Paul lives in. And here's the kicker. There's documented history here. LeBron has a track record of using media, podcasts, and public forums to influence team decisions. It's not speculation, it's a pattern. The Anthony Davis trade didn't just happen in a vacuum. The Kevin Love situation in Cleveland, the constant roster shuffling everywhere LeBron goes. These aren't coincidences.
History with LeBron James directly or indirectly influencing team moves and using media, podcasts, and other forms of media to do it.
So when Rich Paul suggests trading Austin Reaves on his podcast, the entire NBA world immediately connects the dots back to LeBron. Because why wouldn't they? This is the same duo that's operated like a two-man front office for the better part of 15 years. The timing makes it even more suspicious. LeBron picked up his $52 million player option this season. Everyone expected this to potentially be his last year in LA. The Lakers are good, but not great. They're not beating Denver in a playoff series, they're probably not getting past Oklahoma City, and they're definitely not serious championship contenders as currently constructed. Austin Reaves is having a career year, sure, but he's also due for a massive payday. The Lakers are going to have to decide whether to invest heavily in their backcourt or create flexibility to build a more balanced roster around an aging LeBron. Rich Paul floating the idea of trading Reaves for a defensive anchor like Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't random speculation, it's strategic messaging. And LeBron knows it, which is exactly why he's trying so hard to create distance. But the most fascinating part of this entire saga is Jason Whitlock's nuclear take that Rich Paul has completely lost his mind. Whitlock went on an extended rant about how Rich Paul, a guy who was literally selling t-shirts out of the back of his car before LeBron elevated him, has become delusional. Dating Adele, running one of the biggest sports agencies in the world, acting like he's some untouchable power broker who can say whatever he wants without consequences. Whitlock's comparison to the show Power was absolutely savage. Two best friends who built an empire together, only to eventually turn on each other in a power struggle. Is that where we're headed with LeBron and Rich Paul? Are we watching the beginning of the end of one of sports' most influential partnerships? The deeper question here isn't really about Austin Reaves. It's about control. It's about leverage. It's about who's really running the show in Los Angeles. Rich Paul has built an empire through his connection to LeBron. Clutch Sports represents over 200 NBA contracts worth more than $1 billion. That doesn't happen because Rich Paul is some genius negotiator with a law degree and decades of experience. It happens because LeBron James vouched for him, recruited for him, and gave him instant credibility.
NBA circles knows that LeBron James has been the primary recruiter for Clutch Sports, that he helped build Clutch Sports. I mean, are we really to believe that Rich Paul, a guy who at the time was like 32 years old, just started one of the biggest sports agencies in the NBA on his own?
The conflict of interest is glaring, always has been. The NBA has supposedly investigated LeBron's ties to Clutch Sports multiple times and found nothing. But everyone in basketball circles knows the truth. LeBron is the foundation of that entire operation. So when Rich Paul starts freelancing on podcasts, suggesting trades that directly benefit LeBron's championship window, it creates an impossible situation. Either LeBron sanctioned these comments and is now lying about it, or Rich Paul has genuinely gone rogue and is making his best friend look terrible on a national stage. Neither option looks good. The Austin Reaves situation is bigger than just one trade proposal. It's a microcosm of everything wrong with player empowerment taken to its extreme. When agents become celebrities, when podcasts become negotiating tools, when the lines between representation and manipulation get so blurred you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. LeBron built Rich Paul, gave him opportunities, opened doors that would have stayed locked forever. And now that creation might be spinning out of control. The Frankenstein comparison isn't far off. When you elevate someone beyond their qualifications, beyond their experience, beyond their natural abilities, eventually they start believing their own hype. Rich Paul is dating one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. He's sitting courtside at Lakers games like royalty. He's running a 9-figure business empire. The guy who was selling bootleg jerseys in Cleveland now has the power to reshape NBA rosters with a single podcast appearance. That kind of transformation changes people. It has to. The question is whether LeBron can still control it. Stephen A. Smith's larger point about agents doing podcasts is worth considering too. There's a reason many industry insiders think it's a terrible idea. Agents are supposed to work behind the scenes. They negotiate, they strategize, they protect their clients' interests without drawing attention to themselves. The moment an agent becomes the story instead of facilitating the story, lines get crossed. Whether LeBron approves it or not, the relationship between LeBron James and Rich Paul has defined modern NBA player empowerment. They've changed how stars control their careers, how agents operate, how front offices make decisions. But every empire eventually faces internal conflict. Every partnership eventually gets tested. Maybe LeBron is telling the truth. Maybe Rich Paul really did go rogue. Maybe this was an honest miscommunication blown out of proportion by media narratives and public perception. Or maybe, just maybe, we're watching exactly what Stephen A. Smith called out, a carefully orchestrated dance where LeBron gets plausible deniability while his agent floats trial balloons to see how the public reacts, test the waters, gauge the response. If it lands well, pursue it. If it backfires, distance yourself and move on. Either way, Austin Reaves deserves better than being trade bait in someone else's power game. The kid has earned his spot. He's proven himself. He's become exactly the kind of player every team wants. Tough, skilled, clutch, affordable. Trading him for defensive help might make sense on a whiteboard, but basketball isn't played on whiteboards. So who's right here? Is LeBron being honest when he says Rich operates independently? Is Rich Paul really out here freelancing without his best friend's knowledge? Or is this all theater designed to plant seeds while maintaining deniability? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but one thing's certain. Stephen A. Smith just reminded everyone that you can't build an empire on loyalty and then pretend that loyalty doesn't influence every decision you make. Welcome to the NBA in 2025, where podcasts shape rosters, where agents become the story, and where even the king himself can't escape the consequences of the kingdom he built. The Austin Reaves trade talk will fade, but the questions it raised about LeBron, Rich Paul, and the blurred lines between representation and manipulation, those aren't going anywhere. And that's the real story nobody wants to admit.